Some dudes set it off on their first game, while some dudes had it so bad it went horribly wrong.
In the first half an hour, Ronaldo is dismissed.
And it's allowed to travel, and it's converted by Jude Bellingham on his debut.
These are the 25 craziest debuts in football history. And first up, it's a debut the GOAT never wants to remember. In 2005, Messi was still a young teenage kid with lots of talent and hype. See, at the time, Argentina had done enough to convince him to ditch Spain and play for his birth country. They were so convinced by him that they decided to give him a debut in a friendly match versus Hungary. But just 47 seconds into his debut and Messi was off. Bad start. Safe to say, Messi's more than made up for it now. But that red card on his debut still stays on. At least Messi did this in a friendly. When Saul Niguez switched over to a new league, his first start was a disaster. The thing is, Saul wasn't playing regularly like he wanted to at Atletico Madrid, and so Chelsea decided to offer him a way out. They brought him to London on loan, and Saul finally got the chance to show his new club just how good he was when he started the league match versus Aston Villa. But his debut didn't go as planned. By half-time, he was so bad that he'd gotten subbed off. On the plus side, Saul wasn't getting sent off like his former teammate was, Joao Felix at Chelsea. You know, I'm starting to think there's something with Atletico Madrid players and making horrible debuts at Chelsea. In January 2023, Chelsea was going through an injury crisis in attack and decided to bring in Joao Felix on loan at the club. The situation was so bad that Felix didn't have any time to settle in. He was in the matchday squad from the first day and started too. Felix actually started well on his first game, and even managed to meg a Fulham defender with a skill move. But 58 minutes into the game, his dream debut was over. The red card for that high tackle on Kenny Tete, and Felix was off. This doesn't mean Atleti players don't do well in their first game. Back in 2009, an OG between the sticks had a debut he'd never forget. David De Gea. In the 2009-10 season, De Gea rose up to the top in a matter of days. See, Atletico Madrid's first choice goalie, Sergio Asenjo, at the Under-20s World Cup. So backup goalie Roberto was the man behind the goalie, and De Gea acted as cover for him. But in the Champions League, Roberto got injured, meaning by the time Atleti were set to face Real Zaragoza in the league 3 days later, they needed a new goalie, and De Gea took the starting spot. It looked like his debut was going to go badly after he gave away a penalty, but seconds later, De Gea had the ultimate redemption, saved the penalty and helped his team win 2-1. La Liga has seen some incredible debuts over the years, but few quite hit harder than Hey Jude. Bellingham. The pressure on him coming into his first season at Madrid was intense. He'd become the club's record signing and started in the opening game of the season versus Athletic Bilbao. But Bellingham didn't let any of that faze him, and in the first half, Jude got off the mark and set a celebration the league and the rest of the world would soon get used to. Wasted no time in making the statement. I can't lie, watching that Bellingham debut cameo reminds me of another Englishman who hit the ground running at the Bernabeu. David Beckham. When Beckham joined Real Madrid from Manchester United in 2003, there was a lot behind this transfer. Beckham was coming off the back of some very negative press at Manchester United, and at Real Madrid some people doubted his ability and wondered if he'd be able to maintain his level at a club with this mega status. But Beckham's a baller, like he's always been. On his first game at the Bernabeu, he wasted no time in settling in. They had no choice, they had to love him. Instant impact on debuts like this, it's reserved for the OGs, guys like Beckham or Zlatan. In the 2016-17 season, at 34 years old, Zlatan shocked the world by announcing he was going to sign for Manchester United on a free transfer. See, a 34-year-old attacking player in the toughest league in the world sounded like a bad idea. Many people thought Zlatan had finished, and he'd probably just make cameo appearances and stuff. But Zlatan himself, he's a legend.
And I made the Premier League look old.
As soon as he got into his groove, there was no stopping him. And from long range, he announced himself to the Premier League. He doesn't age, he's Zlatan. The crazy thing is, it didn't just end in the Premier League. In 2018, Zlatan decided it was time for a new adventure in the MLS. And in the first game, you can kinda guess the stuff he was up to again. This time, Zlatan's new club was LA Galaxy, and they were up against it when they faced LAFC in the league. Zlatan started this one as a sub, but with the team 3-1 down, the coach decided there was no time to waste. So he had Zlatan come in as a sub. His teammates scored to make it 3-2, and barely a few minutes later, Zlatan did this. Damn! Oh yeah, he scored the winner minutes later too. Lesson learned. Zlatan will always make a mark. A debut performance so good, he inspired a new generation to copy the same thing. Erling Haaland. Haaland has made it no secret Zlatan is his idol, and it's easy to see why. In 2019, Haaland was making his Champions League debut for Salzburg versus Genk. You'd expect his nerves to be dangling in a competition like this, but Haaland's built differently. He's got those Zlatan genes in him that make him tick differently. And on his debut game, Haaland announced himself to the world. Took the match ball home with a hat-trick. What a performance! Haaland was unstoppable in the Champions League group stages that season, but unfortunately his teammates weren't quite on the same wavelength. Despite the goals he scored, Salzburg finished third and couldn't qualify for the group stages. But Haaland's form had earned him a move to a bigger team, and on his debut for his new club, you can kinda guess the stuff he did next. After signing for Borussia Dortmund, Haaland's first job was to help the team rescue something against Augsburg. Dortmund was losing 3-1 around the 57th minute mark when coach Marco Rose decided now was the time to introduce Haaland to the mix. And I'm pretty sure the instructions would have been to get a good shift and all, but I'd bet even Haaland himself would have been surprised with the debut he had next. A hat-trick from off the bench in under 30 seconds. Unreal. Bagging goals in back-to-back debuts. Hey, I've seen this one before. Oh yeah, before Haaland in 2019, another OG was doing it back in 2016. When Marcus Rashford first burst onto the scene, he was electric. Rashford made the Manchester United starting 11 to face FC Midtjylland in the Europa League. Coach Louis van Gaal had seen something in young Marcus and wanted to give him a chance, so he started him, and in turn, Marcus delivered. A brace on his European debut. The performance was so good that Van Gaal decided to do Rashford one better. He upped the stakes and had Rashford playing in the biggest game of his life a few days later. Manchester United versus Arsenal, and Rashford made the cut. Games like this are always very high-staked. Old Trafford was filled to the max. And a young 18-year-old Rashford was making his Premier League debut. The nerves would have been insane, over-the-roof stuff. But for his age back then, Rashford was a serious pro. Despite the occasion and how heavy it was, he still had a job to do. And when the chance came, click, bang, Rashford was on the double again. Another debut, another brace, back-to-back games. The kid was guaranteed to make it big time. Rashford's cameos earned him a place in the team from that point on, and he became a mainstay. In fact, they were so good that he started getting comparisons to the guy who'd done it before him. Wazza, Wayne Rooney. In 2005, Rooney was the most exciting young prospect in the Premier League. A lot of clubs wanted him, but in the end, he chose Manchester United. And the reason is because of that kid who held up a special sign at Old Trafford. Subscribe to Mr. Football. Can't argue with that, Rooney couldn't say no. Rooney made his European debut days later in the match versus Fenerbahce in the Champions League. It's important to note he was only 18 years old at the time. I say this because he scored a freaking hat-trick on his Champions League debut at 18 years old. When I was that age, I sold lemonade on college holidays. Not all Champions League debuts go according to plan though, but don't take it from me. Take it from the GOAT himself. In September 2018, Cristiano Ronaldo was on a new mission. See, he'd just transferred from Real Madrid to Juventus for a club record fee of $105 million. And he was now making his official debut for Juventus in the Champions League away at Valencia. Juve didn't even try to hide it. The main reason they signed Ronaldo was to win the Champions League. And on Ronaldo's part, he needed to get off the mark quickly. But I don't think anything would have prepared him for the debut he was about to have next. He got a red card and was sent off on his Champions League debut. Damn, Come on, Chris, I thought he was going to pull an Oscar in the competition. No, not the award, Oscar, the Brazilian wonder kid that stole the show back in 2013. Chelsea were the holders of the competition back then, and in their first group stage match against Juventus, new signing Mboboa Oscar was making his debut. Now, I knew Oscar was talented and all, but I don't think even he would have been expecting the kind of debut he had. He scored 2 stunners against a Juventus defense that had Buffon in goal. Insane. I'd bet Southampton wish they'd gotten a watered down version of this guy at the very least in 1996, after they fell for the biggest scam in Premier League history. Now this one gets funnier every time unless you're a Southampton fan. In 1996, some random dude named Ali Dia managed to pull a fast one on an entire club. Technology wasn't as advanced as it is now, so when Dia claimed to be former Ballon d'Or winner George Weah's relative and a talented pro, the club believed it and even invited him and gave him a chance to play in the Premier League. But as soon as Dia set foot on the pitch, the truth was out in seconds. Dia had pulled a very fast one on them and they fell for it. His 27-minute sub cameo ended with him getting subbed off. Crazy. Back to the good stuff now, and in 2002, the OG Ronaldo sent the Bernabeu going wild. Ronaldo had signed for Real Madrid from Inter Milan that summer. The Bernabeu was super excited to see him play, but in the game against Deportivo Alaves, he started on the bench. Once that clock hit the 60-minute mark, it was officially time for R9 to make his debut. The dude got warmed up, and in the following 61 seconds, he had the Bernabeu on their feet, witnessing greatness. You either got it like R9 or you don't, nothing more. There's something about Madrid's strikers and making good league debut cameos. Alvaro Rodriguez went one better and did it on an even bigger stage. 18 years old and he had the biggest moment of his life. Alvaro Rodriguez was on the bench for Real Madrid in February 2023 when they faced Atletico Madrid in the Madrid derby. And with time running out, Carlo Ancelotti's Real team were losing. So he threw on an extra striker in Rodriguez to try and grab a goal late on. And in the 85th minute, like a perfectly written script, Rodriguez from the academy rescued the biggest team in the world, grabbed them a point. I'm pretty sure Rodriguez will never forget that moment. Just like Sergio Aguero will never forget his insane Premier League debut. Aguero had just signed for Manchester City from Atletico Madrid. In his first league game against Swansea, he was in from the start. And now I could tell you just how good he was, but I'd rather let you watch the clips instead. I don't know which was better, man, the goals or the assist to David Silva at the end. Either way, Aguero's debut in the league was so good, it set the pace for what was to come. The man couldn't stop scoring goals. Back in Spain now and over at Barcelona, a 17-year-old kid only needed 33 seconds to become La Masia's latest addiction. When Barcelona faced Athletic Bilbao at home last season, it was a game they quite simply needed to win. The pressure was on, but with the scores at 0-0, Barca's head coach at the time, Xavi, knew the game could easily swing either way. He needed a goal out of somewhere, so he turned back to look at his bench and decided to hand a 17-year-old Marc Guiu his debut late on. Xavi was going for broke, a huge gamble that was either going to pay off or make him look dumb. And it's safe to say which way it went 33 seconds later. Marc Guiu scored the winner and gave Barcelona all 3 points. Damn, what a moment. Now guys, it's into the top 5. At number 5, this guy came out of nowhere and made an insane Champions League debut against a star-studded team. 7th of November 2012, a day Tony Watts will never forget. He made his Champions League debut for Celtic that evening, coming on for Mikael Lustig in the match. Who were they facing? Just an almighty Barcelona team that had players like Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, and Puyol all playing. The scores were tied at 1-1, and with less than 5 minutes to play, Watts became a Celtic cult hero. His goal won the match for Celtic 2-1 and propelled him into stardom. Amazing how one match can change a pro's life. It happened to Alvaro Recoba in 1997 and helped him steal the spotlight. Now here's the deal, Inter Milan was playing Brescia at home in Serie A. And as the star attraction, Ronaldo Nazario was making his debut. Still, Inter was losing, and with time running out, everyone was expecting R9 to rise up to the occasion and turn the game for the team. But instead, it was a certain Uruguayan who did the damage and made the spotlight his own. Alvaro Recoba's brace won the game for Inter. Down to the top 3, and in the MLS, La Pulga made the States go crazy. When the deal became official that Messi was signing for Inter Miami, it sent the league into a frenzy. Days later, it was down to business. Messi came on as a 60th minute sub for his new team in the match against Cruz Azul. The scores were tied heading into the final minutes of the game when Inter got a free kick just outside the area. And as soon as Messi placed that ball on the spot, the whole stadium stood to watch. I'm talking about guys like LeBron James and Serena Williams. All these guys waiting to see if Messi had the magic on his debut game. The answer? Never in doubt. The perfect free kick. It takes a legend to be able to rescue an entire team like that. At number 2, in his first game for France, Zizou did the same thing. In 1994, Zidane came off the bench to make his debut for Les Bleus against Czech Republic. But at the time he was coming on, there was nothing funny about the situation. They were losing and desperately needed a goal out of somewhere to change the game. As soon as Zidane came on, he was like a different animal. The score was 2-0 to the Czech Republic. When Zidane came on, at full time, 2-2. Zidane scored both goals, including directly from a corner. This guy's aura is insane. It should have been the top spot on the list, but at number 1, it's the worst debut in football history. None other than the legendary Jonathan Woodgate. So here's the deal. Woodgate had signed for Real Madrid over a year ago, but because of injuries, he was making his debut for Madrid 13 months later. He finally got the chance to play for Madrid against Athletic Bilbao in the league. But let's just say it's a debut Woodgate wishes he could erase from history. He scored a beautiful header at the wrong goal. Looked shaky all through, and to cap it off, he got sent off. Damn, waited over a year for that. It ended pretty quickly. Woodgate's errors, looking back at it now, are funny. Kind of reminds me of the 25 funniest moments in football. From Mbappe almost taking out a player, to Messi going all rage quit on live TV. You can see all of that in the next video.